no plants can survive in a no light environment. Hello beautiful plant people! Welcome to my channel Plants and Such again. My name is Winnie Luthien Thye and I hail from sunny Malaysia. See, I remember to introduce myself this time as well. So, a few weeks ago, someone in my comment asked me to do a video on low light plants. And I thought, I've never done anything like that. I've never done videos on like people doing low light plants or good philodendrons to have, or trailing plants or hanging plants. So I thought it'd be a good idea to do something like that this week. Now, when I started my plant journey, I was also very curious on what kind of plants I can grow in my apartment, namely low light plants. So for people like us who live in an apartment, there actually isn't enough sunlight that comes into the house. Unlike people with real gardens, they can plant anything. They can plant flowers, they can plant fruiting trees, because those really need high light. So what kind of plants can I put inside my house that will still survive? Many years of trial and error, I've discovered a few plants, actually just a handful of plants that are trusty plants in low light. Maybe different people or different articles have different idea of what a low light plant is. So to me, anything that grows behind me, I would consider low light plant, because they don't get any direct sunlight. They just get some sun from my north facing window, which is this side. So it's like a light coming from the side, and it's not very bright light as well, because it's north facing. And there is light coming from my balcony door, but it's actually blocked by quite a lot of plants. Now that is a western exposure. So I consider this part my low light plants. So most of the plants that I grow here, I would recommend as low light plants. Also, most of the plants that grows in my toilet, in my master bedroom toilet, I would consider low light plants. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to take you to see some of the low light plants that are my favorite to grow in my apartment. So we're here in my toilet again. This is the plant that I wanted to show you. This is Scindapsus pictus Argyraeus. As you can see, this is the small leaf type, with a bit of silver variegation. Now this plant has been sitting here and there, for at least 2.5 years. And it hasn't grown very bushy. I bet if I gave it a little bit more light, it will grow a little bit more bushy, but it is still growing, And it's been here for 2.5 years with just the light coming from this one window. Now I consider my toilet quite low light. Most of the time it's low light, unless the sun is very, very hot that day, then I get a little bit brighter light. Like today, the light is a little bit brighter because the sun outside is really hot today. But this is one of the plants that I would recommend for low light situation. It's beautiful, it grows very well in low light, and it's a relatively easy plant to care for. So this is Scindapsus pictus Argyraeus. Now let me show you my other Scindapsus pictus, Exotica. Check this out. This is the other Scindapsus pictus that grows very well in low light. Now check out my Scindapsus pictus Exotica. This plant has been in low light for most of its life, and it's just not stopped growing. So this is the master sifu of low light plants, because it's not only beautiful and not only grows well in low light, it's a very, very easy to take care and a very hardy plant. Just look at that. And the colors, as always, Scindapsus pictus always color better in low light, because if you put it in a little bit more light, then the dark green part will become lighter and you won't be able to see so much of the contrast between the silver part and the dark green part. So if you keep it in low light, the dark green part will stay dark green and you will be able to see the contrast better. So this one and the other one that I have in the toilet, I swear by it, they are really good low light plants. So the third Scindapsus low light plant which I really like is the treubii dark form. Okay, I've not had the silver form, so I don't know how that one does in low light, but this one is beautiful in low light. It grows slowly and you can see that it's quite leggy, but if you want to maintain this dark color, which I love, keep it in low light and it will retain this color for you. If you put it in higher light, the green will turn lighter, which is not what I want. So this one is another one that survives low light very, very well and looks beautiful. Okay guys, this is a Philodendron micans or Philodendron hederaceum. Now this plant has been sitting here in the farthest corner of my toilet for most of its life. And as you can see, it's quite straggly. It doesn't grow very huge leaves, but it is alive and it is still growing. So for your information, this is how the Philodendron micans look like with good lighting and if you allow it to climb. Look at the difference in the leaf size between this one and the one I have in the toilet. If you put it in the sun, it will become more colorful. It will grow really fast for you and all the new leaves are red or bronzy. All the old leaves will drop off also quicker, and when the leaves die, it becomes yellow, so you get a hue of yellow, bronze and green leaves, and the green will be lighter. If you put it in low light, the green will be darker, leaves will be slightly smaller, and you won't see a lot of bronze leaves. Now if you put a plant in a low light situation, don't expect it to become very lush or to give you really big leaves, because that's just not going to happen. But at least I can still put this plant here and it looks reasonably okay. Now one of the good old low light plants is a Sansevieria. So this Sansevieria has been sitting here, okay, not as far in as the micans. So I can say that the Sansevieria actually needs more light than the micans. Okay, this Sansevieria is also a low light plant. It grew really tall and it's hitting the ceiling. It's not growing very much here because the size of the pot is too small. It is growing though, if you can see. Look at that. Sansevieria, or I think it's called Dracaena now, it's been reclassified as a Dracaena snake plant. It will tolerate low light and it will survive for you. Here is another good low light plant. This is a Maranta. But having said that, I would not advise a newcomer or a beginner to grow this plant because yes, it's quite a good low light plant, but it's very finicky in other areas. Like it needs to have very high humidity, the perfect moisture control in the pot, and the heat around it. Like for instance, today is very hot in my toilet. So I can feel the heat coming in. If this plant gets this sort of heat for 1 week, it would die. Okay, so this plant is quite a sensitive and quite a difficult plant to have. But if you want to try it, it's a beautiful plant and it will survive in low light quite well. Actually, most of the plants in my toilet are pretty good low light plants. This is a Philodendron golden dragon. You see how much it's grown, and this is actually behind another filter from this small window. I don't know if you can see that small window there from the reflection. Yeah, so from this, I don't know what this panel is called. In Malay last time, science, they tell us this is cahaya. So this window is like cahaya, and one filter, two filter, right? And the plant is growing inside this glass and it's still growing very well. Now another trusty good old low light plant is the ZZ plant, the Zamioculcas zamiifolia plant. Now this is a very good low light plant, and it is a very, very tough and hardy plant. So no matter what you do to it, it doesn't really die unless you overwater it, then it dies. So I have killed ZZ plants before from overwatering. So it is it is not a difficult feat to kill a ZZ plant if you're like me. But it is a very good low light plant, okay? And it is fuss free. You can put it anywhere. Again, don't expect the plant to be really lush if you put it in this sort of lighting in your house. Okay, I've seen like whole bunches packed full of ZZ plant in one pot. Those are in direct sunlight. So it shows that this plant can be grown in direct sunlight and also can survive in a low light situation. It shows how hardy this plant is. Now, everybody is talking about ZZ plant being a good low light plant. Now let me tell you, the ZZ raven is an even better low light plant. So this is my beautiful baby ZZ raven. Okay, the leaves are black and dark because it's been in low light. If you put this plant next to a window or in highlight, the leaves won't turn that black. So from the color of this plant, you know that this plant has been in low light. This plant is a very, very slow grower. Now an honorable mention. This is a Philodendron squamiferum. Now when I bought it, the leaves look more serrated. Now it's not so serrated because it's been sitting in my living room and this place doesn't get much light. So I would consider this one quite a good low light plant as well. It hasn't stopped growing, it's kept growing, just that the leaves are not so serrated now. Also, when I bought it from the nursery, all the petioles, the hairy petioles are red. So once it came and sat here, all the petioles turn green, which means there is not enough light for the petiole to turn red. But having said that, it's grown well in just an ambience light or the light coming from my window here, okay? Through all these plants, it's still growing quite well. Now, let me show you. I have acquired some grow lights, which I'm going to give 2 weeks because I just acquired them, and I'm going to see what's the result on this squamiferum here. I am already starting to see some red come back on the petiole. So I'm quite excited. Although this squamiferum does grow well in low light, I'll see what happens if I give it some extra light. I will keep you guys posted on this one because I want to do a review on the new grow lights that I just bought, grow light bulbs. So this one is one of those plants that I would risk in a low light situation because it does survive. There are no plants in the world that can survive without light. So you either need to give it a little bit of sunlight, a little bit of grow light, or a little bit of ambience light, like office light or house light. Now let me share with you something that I do on corners that are really low light, but I really want a plant there. So a plant can actually survive maybe 2 weeks to a month with very low light and very little photosynthesis. So after that, it will probably show signs of not enough food, show signs of starvation, okay, because there's not enough light. So what I usually do is I rotate the plants. So I have a nice plant that came from a medium light area or a highlight area, or even a plant that grows well in low light, and I move it to that spot where there's very little light, and I place it there for until it shows signs that it cannot tahan anymore. Then I'll pull it out, put it back into a place where it can photosynthesis, do photosynthesis, and I replace another healthy plant there. So basically it's just like what the offices do. They have this plant company that brings them new plants every month. that rotates their plants. So if you can rotate your plant like that, give the plant 1 month of good light, let it make a lot of food, do a lot of photosynthesis, let it grow well, and then put it in a low light area and then let it stay there. It will stay beautiful for you for at least a month. And then rotate it again. So there's one thing that you can do if you really, really want a plant at a low light corner in your house. So okay, I hope you've enjoyed this week's video. I will see you again soon. For those of you who haven't subscribed yet, please give me a subscribe. And for those of you who have enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon again. So this is what the lux meter is showing in my migrants corner. So this is what I usually get. In the evenings, it gets higher. In the evening, when the evening sun is out at its brightest, I get maybe about 3 hours of this sort of light in this corner.